Welcome to the Perfect Place to Put a Practice podcast. I'm your host, Mike Grain from Dr. Demographics. Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to talk about today's topic, which is we're going to list 5 Northeast suburban locations in that northeastern sector of the United States. So, a lot of attention on New York and Boston and Philadelphia and all these different places. And there's some great opportunity there, no question. But today I want to talk more about a little bit more of a suburban look and maybe a few places that you've thought of, maybe you haven't thought of, maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't heard of them. But there's some great opportunities. Finally, the Northeast is showing some good economy, showing some growth trends, especially in the suburban areas. Finally, the Northeast is an area that we feel like we can recommend. And there's always been areas that we can recommend for sure, but these are some specific areas that, as we're looking at 2026, that we feel like are pretty top for most private practices. All right, so let's dive in and look at these. I'm going to call them a powerhouse because I really feel like these areas can be quite dynamic and they can create an opportunity for practice owners to be successful. And so what we have had for a long time is doctors that grew up in the Northeast, want to stay there, want to live there, but they've had to look elsewhere. They've had to go a little south to the Carolinas, or they've had to go to Atlanta, or they've had to go to other areas that are still somewhat close to home, but not right where they want to be. And so hopefully these 5 areas will give you some ideas of some areas or some locations that have some opportunity. So let's start with number 5. We'll kind of do a countdown. Not that one's better than the other necessarily, but probably our 5th choice would be Manchester, New Hampshire. Vibrant area north of Boston. It's a really good blend of small town, kind of that New England charm with some really great growth potential. Manchester is exploding as a commuter hub, and that's one of the big factors that's driving that growth. Population of about 115,000, 1.5% annual growth through 2025, which is really, really strong. And the housing is affordable as well. Home prices, the median price is about $400,000 compared to Boston, that's the $800,000. So there's a lot of young families, professionals that are from Massachusetts. Maybe they even work. Their primary office is in Boston, but they are living in these suburbs because they can work from home for part of the week. Demographic mix, you got about 75% white, 10% Latino, 7% Asian. Median age is about 37, with about 25% under the age of 18. So those of you that are in peds or in orthodontics or something like that, you can look at a pretty strong percentage of kids in this area because this is a family-centric community that has some great opportunities. And we think that more families are going to be moving in. And what is that being driven by? New businesses, new industry, including healthcare specifically, up 12% since 2022. Low taxes. As you know, there's no state income or sales tax there. There's some great incentives for job training and other opportunities like that seem to create some really intriguing reasons for businesses to open in that area. The suburb generally we would consider underserved when it comes to healthcare. There's only about 1.2 dentists per 1,000 residents versus the national average of about 1.6. And so it opens up an opportunity for a new practice to open, especially if, you're a hometown kid, you're from the area, and you want to make an impact. Neighborhoods like Bedford and Hooksett have really, really low competition. Some great opportunities. Again, Manchester is good family focus, good traditional area, one that you can really have an impact in. All right, our number 4 pick is Worcester, Massachusetts. Yes, it's Worcester, not pronounced how it's spelled, but Worcester, Massachusetts, central suburb, really becoming a strong healthcare and biotech hotspot 45 miles west of Boston. Worcester's an area that has a really strong population, so you're 205,000 people, about a 1.2% growth rate projected through 2026, which is pretty strong because this area has been stagnant for a while, and that growth rate, again, these are all a little bit crystal ball, but looking at the things that are happening, especially in the biotech industry, bringing in a lot of families and creating some really strong growth for this area. It's a pretty diverse area, 40% white, 25% Latino, 15% black, 10% Asian. Median age is about 35. And with that multicultural environment, you have a lot of different languages being spoken. You have different culture backgrounds that make the area really unique. And as a private practice owner, of course, you should be thinking of yourself as a marketer, and that gives you a really strong opportunity to look at these different cultural backgrounds that make up this area in Massachusetts. And if you're smart, if you're wise, if you're strategic with your marketing, you can create an opportunity for yourself that other owners just aren't going to see. Let's see some other factors with this particular area. New businesses starts in healthcare rose about 14% from 2022 to 2025. And that is in large part to the MassWorks program, the grants that are happening in that particular area. Commercial rents are about 40% lower in Boston, making the overhead really manageable. Again, a lot of really interesting things. So there's a pretty strong, younger, really tech savvy crowd that is starting to build some strength in that area. So a couple neighborhoods that you can look at are Shrewsbury and Auburn. Both of them are expanding pretty quickly. There's some cool things planned in that area. So if you're from the area, if you want to have that, close to Boston, but not too close to Boston kind of mindset, it's a really great opportunity. And again, the suburbs, especially in areas like Boston, have grown significantly and really give you some strong opportunities. Okay. Coming in at number 3 is Allentown, Pennsylvania. Really, really an interesting spot. And probably a lot of you that if you're from the area, you've been to Allentown, driven through it. It's about 60 miles north. It's about 65 miles north of Philadelphia. Population of about 125,000. But that area, the whole valley, is growing about 1.3% annually, adding about 10,000 residents since 2023, which is strong. Like that's a really, really strong. And again, like Worcester, it's a very, some of the other areas we've talked about, is quite culturally diverse. And so you have 50% white, 30% Latino, 10% black. Median age is a little bit older, so about 39 years old, and about 22% under 18. Now, what that is telling you is that those families are aging a little bit, and you're seeing more empty nesters and more kids going to college and more kids going away for college. And so what that creates is some really good opportunity for dentists, for example, general dentists, if you want to do some cosmetic work because these adults have the kids going away, and so they've got some extra money they can actually spend on themselves. For you orthos out there, there's still plenty of kids to treat, but also the adult ortho segment is really strong in this area. Again, there's a lot of really great things happening. Amazon, FedEx, they have hubs nearby. The economy is growing about 4.2% in the job market, specifically in logistics, healthcare, and e-commerce. Lots of great things happening there. Allentown is definitely underserved, specifically in the veterinary space. That may be something for you vets out there to be looking at. They, for whatever reason, have not attracted a large number of veterinary clinics up in that area. So it's a great spot for veterinary offices. Like I mentioned, it's a great spot for dentistry, both for just general serve everyone type dentistry, as well as there's a pretty strong size geriatric group in that area. So if that's something you enjoy doing, those are the type of patients you enjoy treating. then this area might be one that you could definitely look at. Again, that whole valley is growing quite well. And so if that matches what you're looking at for your practice, it's probably an area that you want to put on your list. All right, at number 2, let's go coastal for a second. Let's look at Fairfield County, specifically Bridgeport in Connecticut. Just for proximity, you're about 60 miles from New York City. Really good, strong population. About 148,000 people live in that area. Growth rate is strong, not quite as strong as some of the others, but still very strong, about 1.1%. That's expected to be through at least the next couple of years. That's being fueled by New York commuters seeking affordable areas to live. It's pretty demographically diverse. You have 40% Latino, 35% Black, 20% white, median age about 35 years old. Very diverse families that are in this area. They're definitely looking for more providers, more providers in all spectrums, from veterinary to dental to optometry. And they're doing so because this area is growing. The economy is growing as well, about 3.8% through 2025. And that's driven mostly by finance and healthcare. Those two industries specifically have had about a 13% increase, thanks to some state taxes and some other really interesting enterprise zoning programs that they've had in that area. They're about, if you're just looking at the rent, they're about 50% lower than what New York City would be. So a lot of those families that are looking at smaller areas, that are looking at areas that are still within reach. Again, if your main job is in New York City, but you don't necessarily want to live there or can afford to live there, this gives you an option that you're not too far away from home, especially if you can work a few days a week, which creates an opportunity for professional practice providers to go after those type of families. And this area in Bridgeport is full of them. Great families, make great patients, are looking for more providers in that area. So again, strong areas like Trumbull and Stratford. They network with Yale, New Haven Health that provide a lot of referrals. This is a young, diverse crowd that needs providers just like you. So definitely be looking in there in Fairfield County in Connecticut. Some great opportunities. Okay. Let's talk about the number 1 suburban area that we feel like, and we've talked about this before. I think maybe about 6 months ago, we talked about this area, and it again is shown very strong indicators, and a lot of the things that we had originally talked about in that episode 6 or 8 months ago have come true, have come to fruition in this area, and that's Albany, New York. Excellent area. It's a tech and education hub. You're looking at about 150 miles north of New York City, which for a long time, Albany was it was kind of like the step kid that just, was forgotten and people didn't look at it because New York City had so much attention on it. But Albany is an area that has consistently done quite well over the last couple of years. The population is about 100,000. The region grew about 1.4% just in 2025. We expect that number to actually increase over the next 5 years. And so that annual growth rate is expected to be quite high over the next, at least for the next 5 years. It's pretty diverse, 65% white, 15% Black, 10% Asian. Median age is about 38. And a lot of these are growing families. There's about 24% under the age of 18. But there's also about 17% that are over the age of 65. And so we've seen this interesting trend kind of really since COVID, that you've had people that lived closer to New York City, that they wanted to get out of the city, but needed to keep their connections there close, move to Albany. And so a lot of those people 5 years ago that were kind of at the last third of their career have made that jump. And so we expect that number of those over 65 to even increase over the next little bit. So again, if you're into geriatric care at all, if that's part of your service plan, that may be a group of people that you may want to look at, and especially there in Albany. Lots of opportunities, and I would say across the board, definitely underserved, specifically in optometry and vet. per the state data that we researched. So again, great area, great spot. There's some great things still planned for Albany that's going to create some opportunities there in that area of the country. So the Northeast, is that for you? Did you grow up there? You want to get back to your families there? You want to go back to your roots? I think 2026 is as good a time to go back and look at the Northeast as there's ever been, at least from the data that we've been mining. And we're glad for it because, again, the Northeast has not been an area that we've highly recommended over the past 15 or so years, but it's as strong today as it's been for a really long time. We're glad for it because it's such a great area, so many wonderful communities, so many wonderful people that are in the Northeast. All right, that wraps us up for today's episode. Again, I'm Mike Green with Dr. Demographics. If we can help you in any way in finding that perfect place to practice, don't hesitate to reach out, give us a call. You can visit us on the web at drdemographics.com or give us a call. The number's right there on the website. Or you can reach out to me directly through email at mike@drdemographics.com. That's doctor spelled out, mike@drdemographics.com. We'll see you on the next episode.